What is the secret of the never-ending story?
You're really enjoying a show, book, or game, and you come to the ending and it sucks. It's not a good feeling. You experience disappointment, anger, confusion, betrayal, and other negative emotions. The way Stranger Things ended, and more recently Chainsaw Man, reminded me a lot of Game of Thrones. Everyone was loving that show, but when it came around to the ending, people were going through it. I liked Game of Thrones, but I stopped watching it like 4 or 5 episodes in. I noticed a pattern of everything being hype. Every single episode ended with a hype moment. If everything's hype, nothing is hype. So I got off that hype train with haste. I liked the first season of Stranger Things, I actually loved it. But I was really surprised that they were making a second season. I felt it wasn't necessary at all. The first season was a nice, compact, engaging story, kinda like the Stephen King books it pulled from. I watched like 2 or 3 episodes of the second season, and I was like, nah, I'm leaving. Same thing with Chainsaw Man. I loved the first, season. I felt like it was a nice ending, and I didn't really need any more. Unnecessary. It's similar to The Matrix, actually. I love The Matrix. Who doesn't? After watching the first movie, I was like, satisfying. Good story. And then I was blindsided by news of a sequel coming out. I was like, huh? What's it gonna be about? Them continuing the battle? Who wants to see that? Do we need to see that? And after watching the sequels, I was like, no, we didn't need to see that. Reloaded was aight at best. Revolutions.
This is the never-ending story.
Let's go back a little further. Alien. One of my all-time favorite movies. It doesn't need a sequel. The story it wanted to tell was told. The sequel, Alien Plural, told a different story. It continued Ripley's story, but the sequel's overall story was totally different from the first one. And it worked. It's pretty rare for a sequel to be so good. Same for Terminator, another one of my favorite movies. The first movie, Moi, Chef's Kiss, no notes. The second movie continued the overarching story, but again, it told a different story from the first one. And it worked. Did we need those 2 sequels? Nope. But both examples changed the story just enough to make it a totally different experience. Unfortunately, there was Alien 3, Terminator 3, Resurrection, Salvation. Wait, I actually like Alien 3. I won't defend it, it's a bad movie, but I still like it.
Take off. I gotta re-educate some of the brothers. We gotta discuss some matters of the spirit.
What I'm trying to get at is, those movies kept adding and building on lore, kept telling us stuff that we really didn't need to know. They kept dragging out the story, and started adding so much that it turned into a complete, convoluted mess. Stop filling stuff in. One of the cool things about the Alien is that it is alien. The less we know, the better. Alien 1 throws you into this new world and forces you to deal with this extremely hostile alien you know nothing about. You learn about the lore along the way, and you learn about the alien just as the crew members do. You deal with everything along with the characters, and when the movie ends, you're like, oh, what was that? And it's amazing. Even in Alien Plural, we know about the xenomorphs now, but they're still pretty vague. And you learn about everything along the way with the Marines. They don't show you what happened to the colony when the Marines get there. You could piece things together just as they do. There was a comic by Dark Horse in the early 90s, I think it was, detailing what happened to the colony. And guess what? It was kind of boring. We really didn't need to see all that. Do you need to drag out a story? Does a story have to be long to be epic? Why do endings sometimes just straight up flop? Unfortunately, there's a lot of reasons why that happens, but I'll get into a few that I think are the culprits.
A world that is vast and eternal.
It's hard. Writing is hard. Art is hard. I will say it does feel like magic while I'm making art, but believe me, it's not. Storytelling might be a talent, but it's also a skill. It's hard trying to wrap things up and deliver a satisfying conclusion. Constructing a story takes time, effort, planning, taking breaks, and knowing when to get back on it. Or you can sometimes be like water and freestyle off the dome, but that's also a skill. I'm sure you heard some pretty bad freestyling. It's super hard to watch. I can't look. I don't like saying this, but some artists are just pretty bad writers. Let's take for example mangaka All Great. His Tenjo Tenge is beautiful to look at. Absolutely stunning. The story? It starts pretty good, but it goes all over the place. The pacing's obscenely bad. Plot twists that don't feel like plot twists. It just feels like he threw stuff in just because he wanted to, which I kinda respect, but it doesn't work. He goes off on many tangents that don't really move the story forward. It's rough. Although I will give him props because he did manage to end the story in a satisfying way. It's just that getting there was a hot mess. He's a great artist, but I think he would have benefited from having like an editor or editors. I think most big mangaka have editors, but I'm not too sure if he actually had one or not. Another mangaka is Tite Kubo. I'm sorry, I love Bleach, but wow, his storytelling is pretty bad, I'm sorry. I think his editors did him dirty. Let me not be too hard on him though, because working a weekly manga is pretty stressful. And I remember reading a long time ago he had like battles with like mental issues and stuff. So I don't want to like harp on him too much. I brought him and editors up because sometimes too much help might not be good help. Who's pushing the Ouija planchet? Whose story is it? You're the director. You thought you were going to tell the story that you were hired to tell. But that's not always the case. Did you know that Edgar Wright was supposed to direct Ant-Man, the movie? You know, the Scott Pilgrim guy? I actually liked the Ant-Man movie, but man, it would have been really cool to see Edgar Wright's version of it. I don't think it was confirmed, but it's pretty well known that Edgar Wright left because of creative differences. I'm kind of glad he did too, because I'm pretty sure they would have butchered his vision. Like, we saw what happened to Zack Snyder in Justice League. When there's multiple people working on the art, you're gonna run into a bunch of compromises. You have to juggle so many different aspects because you have to appease everybody that's involved in the project. This isn't a recent thing either. Stuff like this has been going on for decades. Did you know that Dragon Ball was supposed to end like 3 or 4 times? And not even counting the current runs like Super. One of the endings was supposed to be when Goku defeated Piccolo Jr. at the Tenkaichi. The editors in Shonen Jump were like, nah man, we need more. Then he tried to end it again during the Frieza arc. Shonen Jump was like, dude, you introduced Super Saiyans, that's on you. Toriyama was so frustrated that he made Trunks for himself. You could tell because Trunks looked so different from the rest of the cast. He needed something to break away from the Snake Way path he was on. This is why I think Dragon Ball will never end satisfyingly. Like, I mean, the Majin Buu saga ended fine, it was fine, but it wasn't satisfying. It's because the Dragon Ball series was supposed to end years and years ago, but it just kept pulling him back in, dragging him back in for more money.
And I ain't selling. I got work to do. But let's look at it another way.
Money's usually the source of anything bad in this world. It's like our government was set out to be evil from the start. Like, dude, they put God on the bills. I'm not even religious, but doesn't that feel sacrilegious? For a government that's supposed to separate church and state, we sure do like mixing church and state. These works you're enjoying are constantly stretched out and milked dry because of money. They want the cash flow to keep going. It doesn't matter if they lose the plot, actors age out, or just leave because they're fed up. It'll still make money. They'll just keep it going. I say it'll keep making money because the fans are already engaged. They feel invested. Sometimes fans are well aware that there might not be an ending in sight, but they're engaged in the story and the art. They want to be there till the end. But the powers that be don't care if the ending suffers. They didn't want it to end anyway. There was never a real invested plan to end it. There was probably more plans to keep it going. Okay, I might get some people mad here. The MCU is a pretty good example of this going horribly. They set up a pretty big story and had a good idea of where the story will end, an inevitable meeting with Thanos. However, they didn't think it'll blow up so big, so they figured out ways to drag out the story. More movies, offshoots, series, random stuff, loosely tying everything in with those damn stingers. Don't get me wrong, I love a lot of the MCU. It just got way too bloated, too much, more. I find it fascinating that the MCU did exactly what the American comics did in the early 90s. They were doing so well, but then they got greedy. Read this to understand that, buy this to get that. Did you get the alternate cover? Did you get the foil special edition cover? Kevin, you had a real world example of what not to do, and then you did exactly that. What were you thinking? You thought you were special? You thought it could happen to you? What were you expecting? What were we expecting?
It felt like maybe I was special.
Special? You're not special. I'm special. I was bit 10 minutes ago and I'm... But that's impossible!
Sometimes we expect too much. I'm guilty of this too. Actually, I tend to do it a lot. I see something in a movie and my mind immediately runs up to a billion what ifs. There's no way the real ending would stack up with your imagination, because your imagination is very particular. I think a good example of this is when I watched Doctor Who, the 9th Doctor, I think it was like the first season, and they introduced Bad Wolf. For the whole arc, there was like hinting at what Bad Wolf is and what it could be and all this, and my mind went off and thought about a bunch of different things of what it could be. But then when they actually revealed what Bad Wolf is, I was like, oh, okay. It was fine, but what I came up with in my mind was way different. I feel like a lot of fans do this. They build up something really big in their mind, but then it pales in comparison to what's actually gonna happen. I feel like this is what happened with Stranger Things. Especially because I feel like the people that made Stranger Things purposefully dropped Easter eggs and references and had all sorts of clues around the show. And it just felt bad because none of it actually mattered. Like along the way, you built up the fan base to believe that all these things mattered, and then it felt like betrayal when it didn't. All of that investment and time you put into it, that love, the ending didn't pay off the investment. I certainly felt this way when I watched Endgame. I'll get hate for this, but I hate that movie. I really hate that movie with a passion. but this isn't a Marvel movie video, so let me just try to make this brief. First off, time travel used to fix a huge problem is a huge cop-out. Among many of the issues time travel causes, it lessens the impact of the ups and downs all the characters went through. My second qualm is that Infinity Gauntlet, or the Infinity Wars and Endgame, ended 3 times. The first ending in Infinity War, they lost, straight up. The end. If they didn't have time travel, that was it. The second ending, at the beginning of Endgame, they unceremoniously behead Thanos. That's it. Second ending. All those years building up the big bad, he gets killed in his little timeshare hut. For the third ending, they kill other Thanos. Now this right here, this is my biggest qualm with the movie. Other Thanos isn't the Thanos that everybody knows. It's not the same Thanos that they've had all those years building up to. It's not the same one. Other Thanos doesn't even know them. They're essentially strangers with no real reason to fight each other. The only reason they have to fight is because Thanos wants the MacGuffin jewels, and the Avengers have to end the movie on a good note. All those years of lore and character building just ended up being a big nostalgic pat on the back. It was like, hey, remember those movies we made? Yeah, me too. Get ready for the next phases. I don't know, like I said, I like the MCU, but I wish it could have been dealt with a little better than that. When I walked out of Infinity War, I was kind of like, that was alright. I liked how Thor ended the movie, it was pretty cool. But then I was like, how are they gonna stop this? My immediate thought, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people thought the same thing, was they're gonna use time travel. But then I thought, that's too obvious, they wouldn't do that. And then Endgame comes around and then they use time travel. I guess I expected too much. Over the years, I got used to the ending sometimes just not delivering. I realized it's more fun to just enjoy the ride. Yeah, a bad ending could sour the experience a bit, but I feel it's healthier to focus on the good you had along the way. If you feel like you have a good understanding of where the story is going and you don't like where it's going, you can just hop off that train. Just choose not to partake in it anymore. And if it turns out the art is worth sticking around for, you could just easily hop back onto that train. You don't have to willingly take part in the art just because everybody is at the same time. The FOMO culture is really killing our enjoyment of art. On the other end, if you feel like the creators botched their work, then don't take part in it. Don't give them any more money, especially if it's because of corporate greed. Like, don't be mean to the creators unless they deserve it. Yes, sometimes ending sucks, that's life, but just like life, the journey is what matters. Enjoy the ride.
That's me.
Actually, nah, it's okay to be a hater sometimes. It's a little hard to be cheerful all the time in this world we live in right now. Greed, corruption, capitalism, it's poisoning every little aspect of our lives. So yeah, it stings when your escape from this hellscape we live in kinda sucks. Meanwhile, our dictator's bombing people, and we're paying for it. Meanwhile, people like me are being blamed for the world's problems. Someone going to the bathroom is the reason eggs and gas are expensive. So yeah, I don't know. Enjoy the ride. Get joy where you can. You have one life to live. Don't let these ghouls rob you of that. Please, enjoy your ride. Unceremoniously, 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 ceremoniously.